Good evening, everyone. The hour is 5:31. It is time for your regular meeting of the Danville City Commission for Monday, January the 14th. I'll call us to order as we have quorum and ask that we be led in a moment of prayer by Commissioner Denise Terry.
Thank you. I have a New Year's prayer I'd like to share with you all. Please join me. As the dawn breaks on a new year, let us give thanks for all that we hold dear, our health, our family, and our friends. Let us release our grudges, our anger, and our pains, for those are the things but are binding chains. Let us live each day in the most loving ways, the God-conscious way, and let us serve all who are in need, regardless of race, color, or creed. Let us keep God of our own understanding in our hearts. Let us lead the world from darkness to light, from falsehood to truth, and from wrong to right. Let us remember that we are all one, embracing all, discriminating against none. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am. Very nice. This evening, I'm going to ask one of our special guests, Mr. Chase Broach, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand with me, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. In law enforcement, you just never know what's going to happen next, right? Commission, you have had before you tonight's agenda. Unless I see or hear otherwise, I will assume it meets your approval. With that, we will move on to hear the public. This is the public's opportunity to have 3 minutes at the podium to address any subject that is on tonight's agenda. Any takers? Seeing none. Now, this is on tonight's agenda, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your name, please, sir?
Yes, Carl Beckman. Good evening, Mayor,
Good
staff,
evening. Are you a
commissioners.
city or county resident?
City,
Okay.
yes. I see on the agenda that item number 15 is a resolution regarding highway safety grant request. One question that you might want to ask Chief Gray when he comes up to speak about this is there any requirement in this grant to write a specific number of traffic tickets, like a quota? I'm unfamiliar with this resolution. I don't have any other details than what's in front of me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move right on into item 1, which is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. And that was back on what, December what?
I move to accept the minutes as written for Monday, December 10th, 2018.
Yeah. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Any discussion? Everybody satisfied with it? I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is the penning of Sergeant Chase Broach and Sergeant Brandon Record.
Mayor.
Good evening,
Commissioners.
Chief.
Good evening. Mr. Scott, Chase, come on up here. I have a few good things to say about him today before we get started this evening. Actually, Chase started back in 2006, and I had just been promoted to assistant chief at that time. And one of my first chores, responsibilities when I took that position was we were in a hiring process, and there were 4 people in that process that made it through the cut, and Chase was one of those 4 people. So myself and Assistant Chief Bustle at the time and Chief Peak, we all got to choose one person, and Chase was my person. So I'm glad to see that Chase has been here and stuck it out with us through some lean years since 2006, and I'm really proud for him at this moment right now. Like I said, Chase started in 2006, so he just had his 12th year anniversary back in October 2018. Chase was the first SRO here in the county and did an extremely important job for the Danville Police Department and the Danville City Schools at that time. His presence in the school and the job he done there was just absolutely top notch. There's not much better, and I don't think there's a teacher or an educator that he came in contact will say anything different. He was a very important part of our relationship to the youth in the community during that time. During the summer, the last 3, maybe 4 years, Chase has been an OIC when school was out. So that means he's an officer in charge, and so he had responsibilities, but he didn't have any rank and didn't get any raises. But Chase would come out and he would supervise, and he would work vacations for the supervisors on night shift. So if the second shift or the third shift captain and sergeant were gone on vacation, we just threw Chase in those spots to fill those nights for us, and we wouldn't have to do a whole lot of overtime and things like that covering for supervisors. So the last 3 or 4 years, Chase has been thrown into the fire as far as supervision. And like I said, he didn't receive any rank or anything. Usually all he asked for was the week off before school started back. And so we'd make that work. When we had our sergeant's promotion back a couple of months ago, going through those interviews, I think we had 5 or 6 that interviewed for the position. We had 2 positions. And Chase was clearly at the top of that list from the interview panel that names were sent to me. So tonight, we formally recognize Chase, and moving from the patrol position to the sergeant's position. His wife will come up tonight and we'll pin his chevron bars, his sergeant bars on his shoulders, and his dad, I can't talk about Tom right now, we'll do that later, but his dad, a retired police officer, longtime police officer through the city of Danville, he'll be the one that presents Chase and pins him with his sergeant badge. So, Brittany and Tom, will you all please come forward? Should have had these ready. Don't drop stuff now. Let me break the ice for you. He said it was awful quiet in here.
We wanted to hear him scream when you got him.
That's what Tom's gonna do. All right, here we go, Tom.
Yeah, it's been that long since you've done it.
No, not that long. Just trying to make it come out at the bottom like it's supposed to. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Brittany, we paid you to stick him hard enough that he would squeal. So now you have to pay it back, okay? Congratulations, Chase.
Absolutely.
Tom, I'm just curious, was that your badge?
No, that's a city badge. I've got mine at home.
Okay, well, I thought maybe you'd want to give it to your son. I mean, you know.
No, he's got all my badges, from patrolman, to captain, to major, to code enforcement. He's got my whole case of my whole history of law enforcement and the badges I've worn.
Gotcha. All right. Congratulations again. Yes, sir. Is Sergeant Record not going to be with us tonight?
He's on vacation.
Boy, I like this. You get a promotion, you get a vacation.
I thought the same thing. He had that planned a long time ago.
So we'll catch him upon his return. Perfect. All right, we will move on to item 3, and that is the appointment of Mayor Pro Tem, who I believe is Mr. Atkins. Is that correct?
By tradition, the leading commissioner vote getter is the generally Mayor Pro Tem. So I will make a motion that we appoint J.H. Atkins to the position of Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Discussion?
He's also on
He
vacation.
is
He's also on vacation. Something's wrong with this picture, folks.
Apparently, we need vacations.
Get a promotion, you get to go on vacation, right? Yeah.
If there's no more discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is the commission meeting date and time discussion. Mr. Dexter, you seem to have a role in this.
Thank you, Mayor. Just from organizational standpoint only. It's the tradition that after an election, the current commission will choose its meeting date and time. Currently, the meetings are held the second and fourth Monday of each month at 5:30 at City Hall. That is not, doesn't have to be a staple. It can be changed, revised as to time, day, or location. If you wish it to remain the same, there's no action that you need to take tonight. However, in the event that you wanted to discuss it and make any changes, now would be the appropriate time to do so.
Only if we make the change that we have our next commission meeting when somebody's on vacation.
For the rest of them.
Keep tradition going.
Yeah,
I'm fine with this. You all fine with this?
and
Okay, then we need not discuss it. We'll just move right on. Item 5 is the Convention and Visitor Bureau project update. Ms. Kirchner?
Hello, thanks for having me. I don't really have necessarily a whole lot to update you guys, but I'm making my rounds to all of the local governments, and I didn't want to leave you out.
Thank you.
So, because I know how that goes. So I did come up with a few things that I thought I could talk to you about that would be relevant. I'd start with that I'm an official graduate of the Leadership Kentucky program, which I know that I have spoken to many of you about. And really their goal is to bring together leaders for the common good of the state. So we traveled all around the state for about 7 months, learned about the different opportunities and challenges. I made a lot of really great relationships. It really had a profound impact on me, and it's already paying dividends of different kind of connections and relationships that I've made to bring that back here. So I just want to let you know I didn't flunk out. I actually made it. What I'm doing is I'm going to the other local governments, and I'm just simply reading our mission statement. If there's anything I say that you wanted to interrupt me, please feel free to do so, because I'd also like some feedback going forward about what your thoughts for the Convention and Visitors Bureau to focus on and to do for our community. So the mission of the CVB is to create a positive economic impact on our city, county, region, and state by leading efforts to establish a tourism strategy through marketing and asset development. We also strive to create an unequivocal experience for the visitor by providing information, opportunity, and a welcoming environment. So, and I know I've said this to you before, our mission is really twofold. We do marketing of the county, and that's one pot of work, but we also believe that we need to invest in the community, because if we don't invest in our assets, then we have nothing to market. And I'll just remind you that our revenue comes from a 3% transient room tax. We pretty much have closed our previous fiscal year, and we saw about a 10% growth, 9.5%. We closed the year with approximately $225,000 in room tax revenue. We have a little bit of other income, very, very small amounts from the state and through shared services with EDP. But each year, the percent of growth has grown and revenue has grown. We have challenge with some Airbnb properties. The update with that would be that we have about 30 now, and I would say the majority of them are paying. Jamie has been a great help in assisting with reaching out to them. We're working with codes and P&Z. We're working with the State Department Revenue Service for collection practices. So we're trying to get our arms around it. It's actually doubled in the past year and a half, the amount of properties we have. And we do, as you know, have litigation pending against one property owner for not paying. So we're trying to do our due diligence, no matter what the size of the check, the law is the law, and we're going to collect the money. So I could talk about Airbnb in a whole nother presentation because it's an unwieldy topic. But and then the asset development side of things, you know, we're always focused on trails. We have a lot of construction happening this year. Again, a topic that I could do a separate update on. But I say that just to say that the CVB has long participated in the Parks and Rec master plan. We're supportive of that process and look to partner with the city going forward to expand whatever kind of sports tourism or revenue we could generate. That directive for the CVB to be involved in Parks and Rec comes from two places. One, our hoteliers. They very much, pretty much every time I check in with them, will say, that's our weekend traffic that we need to have. So I report back to them. And then the other is in our EDP target subcommittee. A lot of focus on sports complex, building recreation experiences, because it's just a bread and butter when it comes to travel expenditures. We're also taking an active role with the new fiscal court in planning for Constitution Square. We have a lot of exciting things. I've been fortunate enough to kind of pick Janet Hamner's brain and cooperate with beautification. And so I look forward to some growth and opportunity there with city and county partnership. We stand ready to assist on wayfinding signage program this year as the city decides to proceed with that. And also a downtown hotel. There's actually a fair bit of activity. We're talking with some potential investors. Jody's been doing a great job getting our property information out there. You know, when you overlay that with the opportunity zone and the potential TIF, we really have a strong incentive package to offer for downtown development hotels. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we're pretty close to hitting that target. It'll still be a long time in the making, but there's a lot of positive energy. I would also like to mention we have largely completed our branding implementation study. It's about 3 years now since we've launched the branding. You may have seen we got an award for our website. That was one of the final kind of pillars of implementing the brand. So we still have a few more things, such as creating a merchandise line that we'll be working on. But that's why I say look for your feedback, because we're very much looking for input from the community and local leaders, community leaders, about how we can grow and what you would like to see us working on. I think that's about it. Did you guys have any questions for me?
Just on the Airbnb, just as a general trend, do you see it sort of, has it plateaued to some degree? Is it still growing?
No, it's actually a really interesting economic situation. So, I mean, it's an entrepreneurial endeavor in Danville, and there's a lot of people who are buying properties and paying for the mortgage on the rental property with the Airbnb. So in a lot of cases, you're seeing properties, especially over on Grant Street, that may not have been online previously or have been run down, getting refurbished and back online. And we've really we're trying to create a network with Airbnb owners where they see connecting to the CVB as an asset. Referrals are a lot of how they do their business. So if one place is full, they're really great about cooperating and saying, oh, but we don't take kids, but you would maybe want to stay here. So they're growing. It's going gangbusters. In fact, a lot of the property owners who have one property go and add 2, 3, sometimes 4. So we don't see it slowing down anytime soon. We just want to make sure we're prepared from a legal perspective, not to suppress the business, but just have it be organized and correct and let it keep growing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Thank you, ma'am. Item 6, code enforcement, Ms. Lester.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have the monthly report for December in your packet, and we also have the annual report for the calendar year of 2018. So for the month of December, we did 115 citations for parking. We issued 18 business licenses. We demolished one property in 2018, which was 306 Highland Court. But since then, we've also demolished 529 Russell Street. And this week, 331 North 5th Street is on the docket for the contractor to get down. So that'll be 3 properties that will make a big difference in those neighborhoods that we have coming down. We've had total of 117 inspections and activities and complaints for the month of December. I'm not going to go through all of that stuff for 2018, except to say we did have 2,253 inspections and complaints. We issued 14 code citations because last year was the first year we had that for $2,400. We collected 700 of those. We still have 1,700 of those pending, but when they do not pay, those roll over into liens on those properties. So those should be collected whenever those properties sell at some point in the future. Also for your calendar, just to save the date in case you're interested, the Kentucky League of Cities will be having the Alcohol and Beverage Control Summit this year in Lexington, and that'll be June 6th through 7th. They do one every other year. Opposite of the code enforcement conference that they do. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I thought there was a house on Coel Street. Was that the year before? Time flies when you're...
Yeah, I don't know, Commissioner. I'd have to go back and look.
That's okay.
Yeah, they do. They go through so fast.
Wasn't it House Bill 422 that opened this up to greater enforcement a couple of 4 years ago?
Yeah, it allows us to do those citations and things.
Has there been some additional legislation passed, or did I dream that up?
Not that's made a huge difference since that. I mean, that was the biggest thing that we've had happen for codes enforcement.
Right.
Bridget, this report's always has a lot of information. It's always interesting. So one of your pages here is the annual report for 2018, and I know a lot of good things have come out of your group and the reporting. So under nuisance complaints, you know, those numbers are pretty high for abandoned vehicles and so forth. How do they compare to maybe like 2017? Or do any better or the same, or what's going on with that?
I don't have that report in front of me, but I would say it's probably similar. We have about the same types of problems. One, you know, maybe a few more here or there, but those happen more frequently than you would think. Where people have problems with their car or something happens and they don't move them, or they're not working, they're not registered. So there's different problems with those. So we get quite a few calls about those.
Yeah, apparently, I mean, just an example, the abandoned vehicles is 122, so that's a lot of work for your group, and kind of wonder what's going on.
Where do they go? What do you do with them?
The tow company takes them to their property, and they hold them until, you know, if there's any outstanding funds on them, then they would hold them until we get paid for it. Otherwise, then it's between them and the tow company. But that doesn't even count the number that the police department deals with, so. He said it's going up.
Anything else? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So for those of you that are going to complain about mosquitoes, that is now directed to the State Agriculture Department. Just saying. Moving right along to the city manager report, Mr. Scott.
Yes, sir. Good evening. It's good to be here tonight as we begin a new year of work. My report tonight is brief. In your packet is a first draft of an effort to develop a calendar, a working calendar for our first 6 months of the year. This draft is primarily geared towards our budget preparation process. And I'm not asking for your approval tonight, but I would ask that you closely review this and at our next meeting either suggest modifications or agree that this will be our work plan essentially for the first 6 months of the new year so that we can get through the budget process. This schedule cannot anticipate all the special meetings that we may have on other topics, and certainly we have those every year, but this is the beginning of that calendar for the first 6 months, our probably busiest time of the year. So I would mention, just for your information and for the information of the general public, in this calendar, administratively, we anticipate mailing out by January 25th, that Friday, the application to any community agencies or joint agencies that we typically have funded in the past, to have them fill out any request for funding that might be sought by the city. They have 6 weeks to complete and get that back in, which a deadline is stated to be March 8 in this draft. And on March 21st, if nothing changes, we would plan to have presentations from those community agencies on their funding requests. So I'll leave this with you. That's the only item I have for your review tonight.
Any questions for
No,
Mr. Scott?
it kind of looks similar to last year and the year before that, so it's a pretty aggressive schedule. I'm just kind of curious, and you probably don't have information, or you would have shared it with us, or maybe we're still waiting for the mayor to talk to Judge Executive. Have any inkling about some joint meetings with the county? Any talk there at this point?
Not that I can relate at this point, no.
Okay. I figured if you didn't put it in, but I thought I'd ask anyway. I think there was a desire by both parties, especially with the new fiscal court, for us to get together and talk about Parks and Rec or anything else that we certainly share responsibilities with. So that'll be your additions.
Well, on that particular note, let me say, as I tried to indicate earlier, we will have a number of special workshops on particular items, and I think Parks and Recreation and our Master Park Planning could very well be one of those special workshops that will be coming up for discussion.
And so to your point, Rick and Ron, might that be a good time to invite the fiscal court in particular to that workshop?
It could be, sure. I could see it really being conducted in one of two ways. Either a city special workshop where we would have input from the staff and maybe other citizens or the court, or it could possibly be a joint meeting between the two parties. And so we need to think about which of those would be desired. And we do probably need to have that workshop as soon as we can arrange it.
Let's see what we can do. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Moving right along to hear the public. This is the opportunity for the public to take 3 minutes on any subject that's not on tonight's agenda. Mr. Beckman.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, public. I have several comments this evening. My name is Carl Beckman. Regarding the situation with banning the public comment section of the meeting, if you ban it, you will be building a wall between you and your constituents and the city leaders. Is that really what you want? It was a public citizen that alerted the commissioners to the road diet plan many, many years ago. I spoke against the road diet at that very meeting. What do you do if the newspaper is no longer in business. I was the person who gave City Manager Scott the suggested guidelines for the public comment portion of the meeting many years ago. Louisville Metro government allows residents to speak at their meetings. There's a lot of good talent in this town. Please allow them to speak at the meetings. Item number 2, the road diet. Road diets have been detrimental to cities across America. Congestion is worsened and businesses fail. I would be leery of the state DOT. They can't even fix the potholes on the interstate. The EDP and the Industrial Foundation are working overtime to bring in new businesses. A road diet and a car race at the end of a shift will be detrimental to our transportation infrastructure. I'm currently noticing a lot of potholes also, and I've been calling them into City Hall. I'm seeing signs of asphalt failure. Item number 3, transparency. A couple weeks ago, the newspaper wrote an opinion piece about transparency, and I don't know who it was aimed at. I want to remind you that you do not need to go into executive session all the time. I believe that the citizens would really be interested in what occurs in executive session. I remind you that the Supreme Court ruled against the city in the Bisco matter. I believe that newspaper does not have enough space to print all the details of various stories. The simple story of the hiring of the new city engineer left a lot of us wondering what happened to Earl, et cetera, et cetera. There just wasn't enough information in the article. Corruption can occur in closed-door meetings. And I'm not saying any members of the current commission are corrupt, but should we get a different city commission years down the road, corruption can occur in closed-door meetings. If the citizens are really interested in this, they might be able to build or start a ballot referendum to prohibit the commissioners from going into executive session. I'm not sure if that would be legal. That would be something a lawyer would have to discuss with the citizens. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? For the record, many of the potholes are on state highways that intersect in the community. And in those situations, Earl, how do we handle that? I mean, it is state highway.
We report those, and we have to rely on the state to do that maintenance.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we will move right into commissioner comments.
I would like to announce for the Housing Authority that they have a new community service center, and there will be an open house January 24th from 10 to 2. It's a drop-in event, and you can come and go and see the great things that they are doing over there.
I believe the housing director is with us this evening. If you'd like to take a few minutes and expound upon all that and tell us all the great things you're doing.
He'll explain it much better than I did.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come here tonight and talk to you for just a few minutes. If you guys remember, I came here in March of 2018 asking for your support on HUD's Envision Center demonstration. And our agency was seeking funding to launch this center. And if you remember, the center was to provide a holistic approach for low-income individuals and families to become self-sufficient. You agreed unanimously on that, as long as we weren't asking for money. In the fall of 2018, I found out that our agency was not selected in the first round of funding for this center. Bowling Green was the only Kentucky agency that was awarded funding. But this is a major reason why I started working in public housing. And the Housing Agency's board agreed to move forward without the initial federal funding. Since then, our maintenance staff has renovated one of our old community buildings, and I'm excited to say our community service center will be opening next Thursday, January 24th, with an open house from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the entire community to come check out the facility, meet our resident services coordinator and myself, and find out what all the building will have to offer to the community. This center is located in the back of our Toombs Court development. and is equipped with a computer lab, a full kitchen, and a large meeting space. Our resident services coordinator, Gwen Campbell, which is with us tonight, which I hope you will ask some questions about this so I can put her on the spot. But she has worked tirelessly on creating partnerships with community organizations to provide services in the community. And we have at the back, and I think each of you all received a calendar for at least the first couple of months, which is jam-packed with programming and different resources available for the entire community. So, any questions or comments?
Gwen, you want to come expand upon anything here?
Can't get out of the spot here.
No.
He likes to do that. Well, thank you for letting me speak to you today. I am so excited about this center that we have opening. Many of you may know that people living in poverty have so many challenges that they must overcome, so many barriers that they have to overcome to get ahead in life. And so this center is designed to help those people in poverty have a chance to get ahead. I have several different things on the calendar for February. It's pretty much packed, and we're looking into booking things for this for the remainder of the spring. We have life skills classes, workshops going on. We are working with Greenhouse 17, providing domestic violence support groups there. We also are having employability classes where people have an opportunity to come and have assistance getting their resumes created, looking for jobs, being connected to local community employers. So it's really an exciting event. We're not even open yet, and I've had residents today knocking on the window trying to get in to see what's going on in the center. So they're very excited about it, and we're glad to have the opportunity to provide this for them.
Thank you. And I'll just comment that you had some large shoes to fill, and you have filled them. You have hit the ground running, and this is quite a testament to the energy and vision that you all are bringing to this community. And this is the kind of thing, in my estimation, that makes a big difference in a community when we can address the needs of those less fortunate. That makes a big difference. Anything else?
Kevin?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Rick.
You know, there's always a lot of wonderful things that happen in this community, and we have some wonderful organizations. You just pointed out one last Friday evening at the Community Arts Center, which the city owns. Those folks did a great job of kicking off the arts for 2019. It was a packed house, well done. So it always makes me proud to be a resident of Danville when that stuff happens.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everyone that this Wednesday, January 16th, is the 200th anniversary of Center College. Kind of amazing milestone, a large part not only in our local economy, but a large part in the economy of Kentucky. And one of their speakers for the afternoon is John Meacham. And if you watch the funeral service for George H.W. Bush, he was one of the presenters and did a tremendous job. And then they're finishing the evening with a performance by Gregory Touray, who is an operatic tenor that lives in Lexington. And I think that's going to be at the Norton Center. And if you've not heard Mr. Touray, it is very, very impressive. Even if you don't know opera, it is quite impressive. Anything else? Jennifer, you're laughing. What are you laughing about?
Called me out. A funny text message that came in on my watch.
I thought maybe I'd said his name wrong. I didn't know. See there? I'm watching. So when you see John Roush and company, give him a nod. That's big.
Wednesday, 9 a.m., correct, is Representative Elliott and
Yes.
Senator Girdler will be here
Yes.
for coffee and chance to speak with them one-on-one.
Two excellent representatives for our community. Thanks for reminding me of that. All right, if nothing else, we'll move right on to the payment of the bills, which you have before you. Do I hear a motion to approve payment of the bills?
I move that we pay the bills as listed in the amount of $902,249.35.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a second, any discussion, corrections, additions? We can't add anything, but.
That included Commissioner Cottle's Christmas bonus.
Yes, it did, matter of fact.
Nothing else, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item 9 is Resolution 2019-01-14-01. This is HDR and the Perryville Road Water System Change Order. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. As we've tried to describe before, this project has a lot of moving parts. It is being funded with the contingency money on the water plant and also an economic development grant that we worked through to connect onto Corporate Drive. The project in total originally is to extend or upgrade the western part of the service into the county, water service into the county, including the replacement of the Perryville standpipe that's on the east side of Perryville, the old standpipe there, with an elevated storage tank that is in need. Because of the funding, of course, we've broken it down into probably 5 steps when I look at it now. This being the last apparent step, it authorizes the engineer to design the tank itself now. If you look on the attached map, we've circled in blue, dark blue, the area that this agreement encompasses. The resolution you have in front of you authorizes the signature on the attached agreement, which is the amendment to the original contract. Staff did not include, at our request, we did not include resident inspection on this phase, saving the city about $150,000 in cash. Towards that money can go on to construction, and we will do those services ourselves.
Any questions? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Can we, you have a guest here tonight. Do you have anything you want to share with us on this project?
We'll introduce Rich Smith. He's with HDR, and he may or may not have anything to add. I would say he probably wants to sit back there quietly if I was guessing.
Nobody's getting off the spot tonight.
I'll be brief. I appreciate the opportunity. So as Earl explained, this is the elevated tank project along Perryville Road that will replace the standpipe on the east side of Perryville. It's also for the pump station to fill that tank. That'll be its main function. And we have already designed, actually constructed 12-inch water main along Perryville Road to Caldwell Road. And we've designed that main to continue west all the way to Tuggle. So this is a continuation of that project for the pump station and tank.
Okay. Do we hear a motion?
I move that we approve Resolution 2019-01-1401.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 10, thank you very much. Safe travels home. Item 10 is Resolution 2019-01-14-02. This is with respect to the Bravura Fire Station contract approval. Again, Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. When we originally solicited the RFP, or we published the RFP document that Bravura replied to, the original scope was to review the building next door and provide for recommendations on it. If you'll recall, after that initial review, we went through the process of new structure, and that led us into a new site. Prior to getting through that initial phase one process, which was ultimately settling on a new location for the fire station, the central station, we did not authorize them to do any design work. We did not pre-authorize them because we didn't know what where we would be or what that scope would look like. Having settled on that site and having settled on that scope, we are asking to amend their original service contract to authorize them to do the detailed design work for the fire station to be located next door, including contract administration services.
Do we hear a motion?
I'll move for approval of Resolution 2019-01-1402.
Thanks, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. We're in discussion.
We talked before the meeting about, you all have been visiting some fire stations to kind of get an idea of what you want or what other people have done, and will that translate into this, or how do those mesh?
The architect visited one fire station with us.
Oh, okay.
That's part of the schematic design and programming phase. They're gathering feedback from the fire department. They're visiting the sites with the fire department, hearing their conversation while we're there, hearing the comments from the other firefighters that are in those stations that we're visiting. We visited a couple already. We anticipate a project meeting after this, if assuming that we're authorized with this approval. We'll meet this week, later in the week, and we'll set up another meeting, we think, where we'll visit at least 2 other stations. And then hopefully we will have some that we can demonstrate to the commission what the idea is in the new station, and maybe get you folks out to a site visit. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're hoping to have a schematic floor plan in the month of January that the fire department could be willing to accept, and then from that you'll start to see at least a concept of what the building could look like, and that will be a public meeting with you folks. Will be presented to you either at the direction of city manager, either at a regular meeting like this or a special call meeting, to be determined.
Thank you. So that's moving along a little quicker than I thought, but.
And I think the police and fire will be doing some testing in the building next door, some training. I know the police have already been in there a couple times without divulging too much. And then we are preparing to do demolition on that property. We would hope to advertise the demolition for construction sometime towards the end of February, so that the demolition may start in March or April.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 11 is Resolution 2019-01-14-03, Fire Station Access Drive Change Order. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. This is best. We have 3 pictures at the end of the attachment, or at the end of the submittal to you guys. The first and third picture is really the 2 that we'll speak from. We did not necessarily know how the project would originally bid. We had money set aside in the current fiscal year to fund the construction of the driveway on the eastern side of the fire station. The bids came back in the drawing that is on that page 3, which is a very narrow, basically just strictly an access drive. The project came in under budget. We had a budget of $150,000. The bid came in at $99,500. Looking at it, we're looking at the site with fire department. We upgraded or increased the size of the pad from 6,400 square feet to a proposed 7,600 square feet. It increases the cost precisely after we add some dowels in a couple locations, particularly one crossing a gas line that's not denoted. The total increase would be, for the extra square footage, would be $22,000 even. Keep in mind that is 10-inch reinforced concrete with a stone foundation. That brings the total contract up to $121,500, well under the current fiscal year's budget. Staff is asking permission to proceed.
Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval of Resolution 2019-01-1403.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardinal. Thank you, Commissioner Terry, for your second. Any discussion?
Yeah, just once again, this is still under budget, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yep. Just want to make sure that was clear to everybody, because you did add on, but you still stayed under budget, and that's good. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm glad you made those changes. Looks a lot better.
Thank you. Fire department had a lot to do with that.
If nothing else, Chair, call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Item 12 is Resolution 2019-01-14-04. This is the mowing contract bid award. Continue the show, Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, again, the city of Danville has advertised for the mowing contract for the 2019 season, growing season, ending November 30th of this year. The low bid was $136,859.94 by the existing contractor, the contractor that had the contract last year, which was Cutting Edge Lawn and Tree Service. Included in this, that is above and beyond what we had been previously mowing, is we went ahead and included the ball field in Jackson Park and the area around it, Cunningham Way median, all the way from Perryville Road to the entrance, and it's the median, and then some of the trim work, quite a bit of work there. The Bunny Davis Club property outside of the pool, I think their staff is still maintaining inside of the fence around the pool area. And then also there's some other miscellaneous areas around Batewood, and also the AutoZone Trail. The retention basin out on the bypass is now in the mowing contract versus a single purchase mow. Staff recommends or is requesting acceptance of the bid as presented.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to accept resolution number 2019-01-1404.
Thank you, Commissioner Sears. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Terry, discussion.
Again, I'd like to comment, and Earl, you did a good job with all the add-ons, and certainly around the Batewood Homes is a new park, Michael Smith, so we appreciate that. But I know there was some conversation previously by different people about building trails and maintaining them. That trail is also getting mowed all the way, correct?
Correct, and that is in this contract.
Yeah,
Right.
I know it is. I just wanted to point it out, that we are doing that job, taking
Yes.
care of it, and it looks very nice down there.
Earl, since we only had one bidder, you're satisfied with his work?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Work like that generally, with those service contractors like that, when those guys get their unit prices and they know how long it takes them to do it, it makes it really hard to get them out. You know, that's what we found, and when we've called some other cities, that's what we see there too. It's a publicly advertised contract, so folks are welcome to respond. And you tend not to get that after you get somebody there for a while. Even though you're shaking the scope up like we did and adding quite a bit, or changing it and by just making a detail more precise, and you still end up with just that one bidder from time to time. Hopefully, you know, that can change in the future, but that's where we're at today.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 13 is Resolution 2019-01-14-05. This is the Parks and Rec Master Plan Acceptance. Continue, Mr. Coffey.
Mayor, Commissioners, this one's rather simple. We had not done this, taken the official action. We are asking with this resolution that you conclude the document as it's presented as a final document and accept it as our essentially what is our policy moving forward as staff.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval of Resolution 2019-01-1405.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Discussion.
One more time, Earl, for the slow of us up here. What are we doing?
I'm sorry. We are accepting the Parks and Rec master plan document as a completed work by the engineer, removing the draft off of it,
I got you.
and so that it's a final form document.
Okie dokie. Takes me a while, but I'm with you.
It's not a big step, but it's one worth
We need to
making
take.
sure that it's clear. I agree with
Okay.
you. Yes, sir.
Which has given us a roadmap for the future. We haven't had one in how many years?
21?
20, more than 20.
Late 90s, I think.
1998 was the last one.
You know, it's interesting, before we vote, I think that they did a good job with the master plan, but again, I'll be proud of this community. Some of those things that they suggested were already in the works of doing. So that was a proud thing for me to see.
Any further comments? If there are none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 14 is the report on water and sewer rates. Once again, sir.
Thank you, sir. I apologize if I cough in advance. We will not take necessarily hours on this. Obviously, if y'all want to talk about it as long as you want, we'll sit here and do that. What we would like to highlight in the utility rate discussion first is that we would like to explain and reconfirm folks the knowledge that they have that City of Danville owns two utility companies. We own a municipal water company and a municipal sewer company. The water company consists of a treatment plant and a distribution system. The sewer utility consists of a City of Danville water treatment plant located on Stanford Road. It also owns a Perryville wastewater plant that serves the community of Perryville, located on 68 on the north side of town. Also, you have a wastewater transmission and collection system for both of those treatment facilities. What we want to do is let the commission know and confirm for the commission, as we've mentioned previously, that it is city staff's objective immediately, I wouldn't say immediately, this quarter, to engage in an awareness program highlighting municipal utility operations and issues for those not exposed to those on a regular basis as yourselves. Those include specifically some of the newly elected officials that have been asking us questions over the last few months. And our goal with those folks will be to improve understanding of the basis for our municipal bills, what is on those bills, operational challenges that the city has in operating all those utilities moving forward, and then also the planning that we're doing in order to serve the communities that the service goes into. For example, Perryville, we just had an agenda item spending a little bit of money on the standpipe that is located in Perryville. We've already invested more than $1 million in a water line along Perryville Road and Corporate Drive to shore up the infrastructure serving that western end of the county, for example. So we would take these meetings as an opportunity to explain that, an opportunity to help folks know the effort that the city of Danville is putting into that municipal utility on their behalf. Continuing on that information is some of the key points we will highlight is we will try to help folks understand that the utility is an industry in and of itself. We produce water. We're not producing widgets. We're producing water. We also treat sewage, which, put in other terms, we produce biosolids to dispose of, and we produce refinished or refined water discharged back to Clark's Run Creek, and then also the Chaplain in Perryville. That is a big piece that folks don't understand. They don't look at, and it is not a local problem. That is a national issue. Folks don't see water treatment and sewage management as an industry. They perceive it as just a common service that's easy to do. It's easy to look outside and see rainwater and see that in certain areas of the country, water's plentiful, so it shouldn't be very complicated, but in reality it is. It's a highly regulated industry, and it's a very expensive industry. And so what we're going to try to do is help folks understand the scale of the utility, which drives the cost of the utility a lot of times. Scale in terms of pipe sizes. It's a 12-inch ductile iron pipe is much different than a piece of pipe that you would buy at Lowe's. It's a different class, different pressure rating, and so it's a different cost. And so we'll try to communicate those complex issues outwardly so that other folks understand what we believe that we understand in-house. Also, we are fighting this public perception that the rates are high, but rather than, and we've got some slides that we hope will demonstrate that it's a perception, it's a public perception that, again, exists not just in Danville, but it is the cost of living is increasing, right? And the easiest thing for folks to do is to talk to you folks. And so the water and sewer bill oftentimes, not just in Danville, is an outward pushback on that cost of living impact that folks see. For example, the cost of a vehicle now is $60,000, $70,000. 15 years ago, it was a completely different scale than that, right? And so the cost of living is changing, and folks are seeing everything go up. And so there's a lot of that negative perception out there, and we will try to address that also. We'll talk about our rate structure, talk about the foundation for our rates. With the cost of service study completed in the last few years, our rates are based strictly on the AWWA, American Water Works Association Manual M1, the Principles of Water Rates, Fees, and Charges. It is the prevailing guidance document for rate making industry-wide. So our rates are not arbitrary. They are not marginalized in some way or managed against a particular rate class. What the manual suggests is the goal of the manual is to provide sufficient revenues to handle debt, maintenance, and operations, as well as to prevent marginalization or isolation of a customer class so that you don't have a subsidy, so that you don't have a customer class artificially funding another customer class, thereby maybe lowering a rate for a customer class over here in the right hand and making someone in the left hand pay for it, right? So the manual specifically takes steps to avoid that, which we've incorporated those in, as well as trying to make sure that you have a rate of return that's based off depreciation to replace the capital that you have so that when the pump goes bad, you have money to fix that pump and replace that pump. We would talk about the utility charges, other things. Folks in other parts of the country where water is not plentiful know this very quickly, in that you, as the consumer of the good, control how much money you invest in that good on an annualized basis. In other words, to some extent, you can take steps to conserve, and therefore you can impact your bill. Water and sewer rates are based entirely on consumption. So how much water you consume at your house affects your bill a lot of times as much as the unit rates for the water, right, that the city is charging. It's how much water are you willing to manage at your house. And most folks don't, there's a little bit of a public perception issue there. It's not a disconnect, but it's just a public awareness, and it's a bringing back to the light that old adage that we can manage ourselves a little bit there and help ourselves. The other things, we've heard quite a bit of talk about Danville and Perryville and Junction City and rates. And one of the things that we will point out to the users in those parts of the system is that on the water rates, since the city of Danville's taken those utilities over, every increase that has been passed on to the city of Danville has been a penny for penny increase in those, not a percentage increase, a penny for penny. So that if the city of Danville individuals, citizens, saw a $1 increase in their water rates, the no more or no less was passed on to users in Junction City and Perryville. And there's a little bit of a miscommunication or misinformation that's out there that the city of Danville has arbitrarily raised rates in the county, in Perryville and Junction City particularly, much more than has been raised inside of the city limits of Danville. Every rate increase since the acquisition of those utilities in Perryville and Junction City has been penny for penny, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then also, we'll reiterate that the sanitary sewer service is operating on a break-even basis. You can't lose or gain particularly. You can gain marginally to operate a little bit of an offset for future expense for pumps, for the depreciation of pumps, for example, at pump stations. But the sanitary sewer business is a break-even business. And there are private water utilities out there that exist, that generate revenue, that store that revenue for their shareholders. The city of Danville is not that. You are a municipal-owned utility. Any money that you get goes back into your utility, but particularly on the sewer business, that is, you're bound to do that, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then also we will identify the varying debt services for Junction City and Perryville and Danville and how that has impacted their rate beginning, when we took them over, beginning with our ownership. I've got 4 tables there where we talk about, in a comparison way, water rates in the Bluegrass Area Development District, which is the easiest place for us to get access to other municipal utilities and water districts and et cetera, water and sewer rates. The way the ad does it is they generate a rate book where they try to compile the data from different utilities. We give them our information so that our numbers can be in the book. For cities over 25,000, I've highlighted on the next page there about 10 or so communities that are comparison to us in some way, either location, size, type of system. And what we want to demonstrate there is what the city of Danville in-city rates are compared to those other in-city rates, and we'll talk about the average. Danville is lower. We're about 10-12% lower than the average in that Bluegrass Area Development Sample Pool. We're on 2,000 gallons. We're about 24% low on 4,000 gallons, which seems like a big number, but it's $6.18 a month at 4,000 gallons, right? As we go into the out-of-city or the smaller utilities, which is where Perryville and Junction City are listed, you can see that there at the top, as we go down to the bottom, we go all the way to one of our neighbors, their out-of-city rate, which is the comparison rate in the rate book. Is what we find is that on the water side at 2,000 gallons, Junction City and Perryville are 11% lower than those other communities in the Bluegrass ad that are comparable. At 4,000 gallons, they are about 21% lower than those communities in the Bluegrass ad that are comparable in size. That equates into about $8.44 a month cheaper than other utilities their size throughout the ad. On the wastewater side, the city of Danville, on 2,000 gallons, same set of communities. We're about $5 a month lower at 2,000 gallons, which is about 30%. And also we're right at just under 30% at 4,000 gallons too, which is about $9 a month cheaper. On the Perryville and Junction City, this highlights the need to go to Perryville and talk to those folks. And this is the one that causes the most misunderstanding in Perryville, particularly when we compare those folks to those users. Junction City, we'll look at them specifically at 2,000 gallons of usage. You're about 10% low in Junction City compared to those other communities in the Bluegrass Area Development District, or $3.40 a month cheaper in Junction City. At 4,000 gallons of usage, you're about 4% lower in Junction City than you are in the other communities, or about $2.30 a month cheaper. In Perryville, unfortunately, at 2,000 gallons, they are about $5 a month higher than the average, which is about 17%. And then at 4,000 gallons, they are $15 a month higher, which is about 27%. Now, one of the things we'll talk about there is why that is. Junction City, their rates are a little higher in Danville. Let's talk about real quick, and this is the last slide, why they see a difference than Danville. Particularly, they have debt that is unique compared to the customers inside of the city limits of Danville. Also, would like to point out that in 2005, when the city of Danville took them over, they had a tap-on ban. Since that time, Danville invested $4.5 million in the Balls Branch Sanitary Sewer Project to eliminate that tap-on ban so those folks in Junction City could have commercial activity again on a normal basis. Also, there was a hanging fork pollution issue. Part of that was attributed to non-functioning septic systems in that watershed, as evidenced by the Lincoln County Sanitation District continuing to install sanitary sewer down the 127 corridor. Danville spent $2.5 million to eliminate septic tanks on the eastern side of Junction City out near the airport, on the airport road sewer expansion. On the sewer side, those are the things that have impacted Junction City's rates. And Perryville, the biggest problem they have is that there's simply 407 customers as of the 2017 rate study in that system. They have their own wastewater plant. Those 407 customers provide all the revenue to run and operate that plant. Going back to the standard, it's not really fair to subsidize that, but we are, that's our biggest concern, is that Perryville wastewater plant. They have, that community has a lot of exposure operating that plant over the course of time, but we would like to point out some of the changes that has happened and why the rate, it was necessary to change the rate real quick. In 2004, when we took them over, the budget for the operation of the wastewater plant that year was $96,000. In 2018, the budget was $166,000. That is, by appearance, a pretty good jump of about $70,000 as we quickly do the math. What we have noted there is of that $70,000 increase that has occurred over 14 years, $50,000 of it was for the power that you pay at the meter to properly operate the plant with. So it wasn't anything that the city of Danville really had a lot of control over. And that's a misunderstanding. That's one of the things that we will focus on and help folks understand what is the biggest impact to their rate in Perryville to that plant in Perryville. Do y'all have any questions? And I, you know, again, these points and this theme will be what we will share outwardly as we go forward over the next quarter. It will take a while to get to all the individuals and meetings that we probably will want to get to. There's a lot of newly elected officials that need their opportunity to meet individually so they can understand the information. We will have then some follow-up meetings that will be public in those communities over those, after those elected folks have had an opportunity to digest and see information. And so we want to let you folks know that that's what action we were taking now that we've turned into a new year, and wanted to make sure that that was satisfactory for you folks and you all didn't have any other direction you wanted us to take.
Can you put this on the website?
We certainly can. It might need a little editorial comment or supporting language, but yes, that would be good to have on the website.
So have you developed a schedule?
Not yet. It's going to, you're talking about individual meetings. Our goal is to do it this quarter. So you're talking about over the next 2 to 3 months, be on a public meeting. We would anticipate going to a Perryville council meeting, for example, and so we would need to necessarily meet with the new folks at their pace before we go to their meeting and start presenting information. We want those folks so that they can lead their communities, know and be aware of the information so that they can help communicate outwardly those issues.
And is there some way you intend to communicate with the newly elected fiscal court?
They are on our list as what we considered a part of that, those newly elected folks that's representing folks outside of the city limits of Danville, and we will actively work to meet with those individuals and then make presentations to them as they see fit over the course of time.
And Junction City as well?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Good job. I don't believe any action is required there, so we'll move on to resolution, item 15, resolution 2019-01-14-06. This is the highway safety grant request. Chief Gray.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners. This is our usual application for the highway safety grant. through the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. This year, we'll be asking for a total of $17,600. You should have a copy of the complete application there. It's about 7 pages. Pages 2 and 3 show you some statistics from 2016 to 2018 on what we've done on that grant. A lot of it has to do with manpower. Most of this is an overtime detail. So it just depends on, what our staffing situation is and, do we have officers available to work the grant. I think 2016 was one of our years that we did not use all the grant money. We were a little short that year as far as manpower. As you can see, some of the years when we were short, those numbers were high. And as you can see, sometimes when we do enforcement, it does make an impact on some of those numbers. Mr. Beckman asked about, is there a quota? I wouldn't call it a quota, but the state, they recommend that you get 3 contacts an hour. And that can be misleading because, you could get 5 or 6 seatbelt tickets within an hour, but you're only going to get 1 DUI in about 2 hours. So it's not like a set quota as you have to get, they evaluate the paperwork. So it just depends on what kind of citation you write. Some of those citations, like I said, could take 2 hours and some of them can take 10 minutes. You also, the grant asks for you to do safety checkpoints and things like that. And, you might have 8 or 9 officers out for 4 hours, and you're not going to necessarily get 32 or 33 contacts in those 4 hours at a DUI checkpoint. So, like I said, I would not call it a quota. It's just a recommendation that, you try to get 3 contacts an hour. You just don't have an officer go out there and get 1 seatbelt ticket and sit around at the Burke's Bakery for 4 hours.
But Chief Gray, this covers the overtime.
This is a reimbursed grant. Yes, it covers the overtime for the officer.
Because they have to be on overtime and writing these citations, or essentially it covers the overtime salaries.
Yes.
And they have to be writing these tickets during that overtime.
Well, it's any traffic enforcement.
Okay.
There's also, as you can see at the last part of the grant, it talks about, there's some goals for, the grant to reduce DUIs, alcohol-related injuries, to increase seatbelt usage and things like that. Then there's also that we attend different conferences and trainings and stuff like that.
Would you like a motion, or do we already have one?
Yes, I'll take a motion at your convenience.
I move for approval of Resolution 2019-01-1406.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. In discussion? Seeing none, Chair call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Is there any reason for an executive session tonight?
Yes, sir. We do request an executive session to deal with personnel matters.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to KRS 618101F.
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Do I hear a motion that we move back into regular session?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. We are in regular session. Mr. Cottle, you
Have a motion. After some deliberation, it is my motion that we fire James Atkins.
do I hear a second?
He's on vacation.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Cottle, but your motion dies for lack of a second.
I tried.
I think we got your intent, though.
Oh.
No, we got to put him in charge of something, not fire him.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
Tonight, we have 2 recommended personnel actions. for your consideration. The first is a resignation by a current employee that we would recommend you accept that resignation. I'll ask Donna Peak to provide you the particulars with that.
I would ask that you accept the resignation of Arnold White, who's a water plant trainee.
Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Before I get to the second particular recommendation, tonight we had a citizen's comment about less than full disclosure about what happens on personnel matters, and the basic question was, what happened to Earl Coffey? in terms of hiring a second engineer, and Mr. Beckman may not have been present when we had some of those discussions leading to that appointment, but years ago when I was first appointed as city manager, we at that time had an assistant city engineer, and the state lured that person away from us in about 2012 or 13, as I recall. And the scope of work of the city was advancing exponentially all those years, including the construction of our water treatment plant, the expansion of our sewer collection system, our lagoon, the workload of our city utilities, and the recommendation that I made, which you accepted earlier in the past year, to, in effect, promote Earl Coffey to our Director of Utilities, was in recognition of the fact that we have an industry here that requires considerable expertise and knowledge and skill, and Mr. Coffey, through his diligent service over a prolonged period of time, has that capacity to lead and guide us in those matters, and that was, I think, evident tonight as he gave the report from a historical point of view in terms of the differentiation of our rates and the basis for those. And so we do welcome the second city engineer to our staff, John Castle, who is present in our audience here tonight as well. And there is more than enough work for both of those in terms of dealing with our growing city and all of our issues, as we are a regional water and sewer provider, and as we have a lot of work to be done. So I appreciate the opportunity to expound a bit on that question. Secondarily, and consistent with that theme, I mean, we've talked for years about city employees wearing multiple hats, and our effort this past year to grow out of that pattern that we've been in since the recession of 08-09. And earlier in this fiscal year, you also promoted our city clerk human resources director to become a full-blown human resources director, in recognition that no industry or city of our size with its 150 employees really operates on a part-time human resources person. The complications of the law and the need for training and recruitment and retention, all of those require dedicated and skilled effort. And Donna Peak certainly had demonstrated that over a prolonged period of time, and she was promoted to Human Resources Director, which gets me to the point of the effort to find a city clerk. We advertised that position in our community back in, I think, August, September. Went through a long process of talking with applicants. I think we had 53 or 4 applicants. We went through a testing phase of those applicants. We interviewed, I think, 9 finalists for that position in the effort to find the best person in our community that we felt would meet the challenges and fit the duties of that clerk the best. And with an open mind in terms of all applicants, and we appreciate all applicants who did communicate their interest in this job, and I think it's a credit to the city that so many people in our community have recognized that City of Danville is a premier employer in this community. Our recommendation at the end of the day, based upon the evaluation of the experience and the qualifications of the candidates, is that tonight I'm very pleased to recommend to you that Ashley Rader be promoted to the position of city clerk.
I would gladly make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Terry. Is there a second? A second by Commissioner Cottle. Discussion?
I think Ron covered it pretty good. It was a lengthy thing. It was a tough process for you all, I'm sure. But with the new title as Human Resources, we had an expert on the job. I don't know.
Well, it's nice that we had that much interest in the job. And your process, I think, was, I'll use the term agnostic, and it was very thorough. And that's the way it should be done. Congratulations to you all. So, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, we made a motion. You seconded.
You seconded it.
See, I do that too. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Ms. Rader, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Anything else to come before us? Then the chair will make the motion, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Have a good evening.